Hello, welcome to task 58. We are going to be working with assemblies today. We're building our first assembly. It's going to be really interesting. I have sent you a starter file, so you will find it if you hover over this Shared by Me tab and look for the file called Starter Assembly. That's what we're going to be working with today. And before we get into it, let me just outline what we're doing here. Task 58 is our simple assembly. We are going to save task 58 in our classwork folder. We're going to engrave our name on the large block. We're going to add an assembly, insert the objects that we need, fix one of them, and recreate this model, all these positions, and the way the blocks meet with one another. Finally, we're going to make sure we submit an image of the assembly with the mate features visible and the hidden edges visible. And of course, your name is always visible. So let's get started. When you open this starter assembly file, you want to make sure that you copy the workspace because you don't actually have access to edit this file. You should just be viewing it. So we want to copy the workspace and we are going to name it with your name. I'm going to call mine task 58 Mrs. Ayala. I'm saving it in my Owned by Me classwork folder. You can put yours in your classwork folder. And we'll copy the file. We should see the file name change here. That's good. I think we're ready. Before we get into creating our assembly, you might want to make sure that you have a mouse. When you're working with assemblies, I think it's especially helpful to use a mouse because there are some buttons that make your life a lot easier than just using a trackpad. So you might want to pause the video and go get a mouse and come back. Anyway, I'm going to go on. We have copied our workspace. We are going to start a new assembly. There is a plus sign in the lower left corner of your OnShape window. And that plus sign is where we can insert a new tab. We are going to create assembly here. When I click on create assembly, I should see a new tab open over here. And right now our assembly area is blank. This little dot is the origin. This sidebar is going to show all of the parts that we're going to bring into the assembly. And this is our toolbar. The tools are a little bit different than what we've been using in the sketching and part studio where we can extrude things. We're going to learn all about it. But first, I'm going to just rename my tab here. I'll call it task 58 assembly. And the next step is to use the insert button in the toolbar to select all the pieces that we want to bring in to make this assembly. So I can see the Part Studio elements here. This is everything that's in the Part Studio. It's only 3 blocks. And I also see that if I click on Part Studio, I should get all 3 blocks right here. And I might do that, but I see I need 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks. I actually need 2 of the squares. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and click on every individual piece and bring them in that way. The arch, the cube, we need 2 of, and then 1 large block. Okay, so that should be everything. And if I needed to, I could go back and insert more parts, but I'm going to leave it at that. Now I'm going to use my mouse to right-click on the white graphics area and choose Zoom to Fit. That helps me to zoom out just enough. Okay, so now we want to think about how we're going to start. The first block, we're going to build from the bottom and make our way up. And one practice that I like to do is, and you might remember this from the OnShape video, is fixing one object at the origin, kind of your starter point at the origin. So I'm just moving the other blocks away from the origin. One up here, so that I have plenty of space for my bottommost block, this arch, to be on the origin. Now that it's there, I'm going to right click on this block, and I'm going to choose, what did I see? I want to see move to origin. Why don't I see it? Oh, I know. I think I need that. I need to click on this circle here and choose move to origin. So in order to do that, just to review, I clicked on my arch. I could click on it here, or I can click on it here in my sidebar. The arch instance is here. And this is the manipulator that lets you move things up and down, right, left, back to front. I'm clicking on the circle at the center of this manipulator, and I'm actually going to right click on it, and there I'll choose move to origin. Okay, and now that it's here, I'm going to have it stay at the origin by fixing this block in place. When I right click, oh, I think I need to click off of it first. Let me click on the graphics in the back. Okay, now let me right click on the block, and I can choose fix. That means this block is going to be fixed at the origin. I can't move it anymore, the way I can move around the other blocks if I drag them. So we have we've kind of planted our foundation right at the origin. Next, we're going to think about building our next block up. So we are using, as you might have noticed, and I think the instructions here, we're going to use the fix, oh, not the fix. We did that. We're going to use the Fastened Mates feature here in order to fasten these two blocks together. So again, these are all different ways to mate or join objects together. And we're going to use the fasten join or the fasten mate in order to secure the objects together in a way that they cannot reposition, move, slide, rotate. They're basically going to be glued together. So I'm clicking on Fasten Mate. It opens this Fasten Mate box. I next want to find the joint connector point that where I want to join them from. So I'm going to pick this point that's at the center of the top face of the arch block. And you can see I have now the mate connector of arch 1 selected. And then I want to choose the face where I want this block to meet up. So since we see the wider block is lining up with the wide arch here, I'm going to choose this side of the tall block to meet up here. Well, that's not what I wanted to do. Maybe I'd better pick the other side. That's better. Okay. So sometimes if you find that your block is doing the kind of the mirror reflection of what you want, you can just try doing the same thing on the other side. So that worked well for us. We have our blocks lined up just like in the picture here. Next, we need to obviously put a cube on top of this rectangular prism. So we are going to again use our Fastened Mate tool, and we are going to select the top of this rectangle, and I'm finding the center point here with the mate connector point. And I can see mate connector of large block is highlighted there. And now I'm actually going to get the bottom side of a block, and I'm going to get there by using, I can do two things. I can use my view cube arrows, or I can actually use the right click button on my mouse to make the whole screen rotate as I move around. So that gets me underneath the blocks. I need to get the bottom of this cube, and that should move it into place. I can right click on the background here. I should be able to choose, I think I can't because two things are selected. Let me agree. And now I can choose isometric. That's kind of a quick way to go back to the isometric view. So this looks pretty good. We have the right order, but you may notice there's a difference. We need to change the orientation of this third block. Let me go back to our second fastening. You might notice these are all of the mates that we've used so far. Here's where we joined the arch block at the bottom with the larger block. And this fastened 2 is where we just joined the wide, large rectangular prism here with the cube. So I'm going to right click on fastened 2 and choose edit. And there's a tool that I can use here called an offset. So an offset is where you kind of shift something either by moving it a certain distance or rotating it. In our case, as you may have guessed, we want to rotate. So we're going to rotate about which axis. If we're not sure, we can look at the view cube. Here's the x-axis, here's the z-axis, the y-axis would be this way. So we want to rotate, as you can kind of see, about the z-axis, about this axis right here. And we are going to rotate by 45 degrees. Let's accept this, and it looks good. I think that looks a lot like what's in the picture. Finally, we've got to join 2 more blocks, the 2 cubes. So let's do one more fasten mate. We'll find a mate connector in the middle of the cube here, and we'll find another mate connector. I'm using my right click mouse right now in the bottom of that cube. And once again, you can kind of see already, we're going to need another offset, right? We've got to rotate around the Z axis. So let's offset Z. You can, by the way, if you didn't notice, there's a red line, a red arrow here next to the x-axis, and a red arrow here to show where the x-axis is in our assembly. There's also another red line here to show how the x-axis falls on the view cube. Same thing with the z-axis. We have a blue line for z in this list, a blue line in the assembly, and a blue line on the view cube. And then I can see a green line for y, a green line for y, and I guess the y is hidden here by the view cube, but I bet it would be green, right? So we're rotating about the z-axis because that's the one that runs up and down here. And we're going to turn again 45 degrees like we did before. All right, that looks good. So we have fulfilled everything in this list except we did not do number 2. We did not engrave our name on the large block. And I'm kind of glad we're doing it at this point. I want to show you we can actually engrave if we go to the Part Studio, which is the interface that we have mostly been using since November. We want to add a name, so I'm going to put my name, I think, on the large block by creating a new sketch and choosing the face that I want to sketch on. And then I'm going to just go ahead and find that front. I'm going to add my name to the block. This is Ayala. And we can actually choose, where is it? I wanted to choose to rotate. Here. Oh yeah, transform. So let's transform this name. There we go. So I can use my arrows here to help me transform. I want to turn it 90 degrees. And I'm going to kind of move it into place using these arrows. All right, I think I will accept by, see how I see a mouse graphic next to my arrow here, and with a green check mark on the left click button, I'm going to left click, accept. Now I've rotated my name. And oh, by the way, I rotated my name because this block is in that position over here. If you don't want to do that rotating and your name is going sideways, that's okay. As long as your name is on the block, it's going to be okay. But I think I like to rotate mine. I'm going to now use the dimension tool to define its position. This is one. I'm going to change the size so it is smaller and it actually fits within the dimensions of the block. Great. So I think I will accept sketch 2. I will do an extrude on sketch 2. I'm going to make it go in this direction. 8.1, not too much. Oh, that looks better. Okay. Cool. So there's my name. And now that we have modified the Part Studio, it should also modify the assembly. Yep, there's my name. Great. So now that we have added a name here, we can follow through. When we submit, we want to have the mate features visible with the eyes and the hidden edges visible. So let me show you how to do that. These are our mate features. And when it says mate features eyes, that means click on the eye so that the mate feature is showing. So I'm clicking here, I'm clicking here, and I'm clicking here. And this is just a way so that at a glance, someone can look at your image and see that you have been using the Fastened Mates connector between your blocks. And finally, we're going to have our edges visible. That is under the view cube here. We can choose, instead of hidden edges removed, we're going to change that feature to hidden edges visible. So you should see all of the lines that are in the back or on the left side. Now they're visible. Okay, I think we have done it. It's the time for you to take a screenshot, submit in Schoology. Good luck with the project.